Welcome to another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric. In my last video, I talked about how I was at a point where I needed to figure out what I was going to do next. Not simply what I was going to spin next, but what spinning project I was going to work on next. And I showed a white fleece that was Coriadel, and I showed a purplish braid of merino. And I also talked about how I have this bin of fiber that needs to be blended for a project I started last year. As it turns out, I decided to get the drum carder out and do a little drum carding. And I realized as soon as I started drum carding that the first batches of this, let's call it the Spuntober fiber, that the first batches of this fiber were done on the blending board. And that obviously took me a little bit longer than using the drum carder. So what I have been doing is using the drum carder these last couple days working on this fiber. And I have a little bit of video that I'd like to share with you of me working on, in fact, this orange down in the bottom fiber using the drum carder. And I'm sure I'll speed it up and have it either on the side or directly over the top of me speaking here. But one of the things when doing this fiber on the drum carder that became very apparent is, one, that it was a lot faster using the drum carder than the blending board, and that much like when I do most of my bats on the drum carder, it benefits me in most cases to run the fiber through the drum carder 3 times. In this case, where I'm taking a commercial merino top or roving, and I am combining with it some hand-processed fleece, one that is white and the other half is CVM, colored CVM. Because I am taking a hand-prepared fleece and I am mixing it in with a commercial top, even though the hand-prepared fleece has been carded beforehand, it still does need a little extra blending time. And maybe it'd be a little bit easier on the blending board, but I think even when I was using the blending board, I was running the fiber over it at least 2 times, if not 3 times, in order to get it to blend well. Sometimes we don't want the fiber to be completely blended in with our base fiber. Sometimes we want to have little streaks of it. But when we're spinning and we're trying to draft that fiber doesn't necessarily spin the same way. And so one of the things I have, and I even mentioned it in one of my previous videos, I oftentimes find that these lovely braids that have, say, merino or cashmere and silk in them, I find that they're easier to spin if I do a little bit of extra blending of them before I sit down to spin. And that's what I'm doing on the drum carder in this case. I only have 2 fibers that I'm trying to blend together. I am not worried about 100% blended, but I do want it to be fairly evenly spread out so that I don't get clumps of, in this case, the white Coriadel, because it will spin slightly different than the colored merino. So taking the time to run it through at least 3 times through, the first time just getting it spread out, the second time to start incorporating the fibers together, and the third time to really try to get a little more incorporation. That taking that time really does help when it comes to the spinning. With that being said, if you really are trying to fully integrate more than one fiber together, taking the time to slowly, certainly not the high speed, sped up version I am showing you on my drum carder, go slow. Take the time, run it through multiple passes. If you're making multiple bats of the same combination, take the time to split up those bats and blend pieces of each other together. You can come up with completely different colors by blending together 2 different fibers into one. So it is a way to get a unique color that maybe you can't just dye yourself, or maybe you can't purchase for yourself. It can be a unique way of, if you are wanting like a sweater spin and you want a more ombre transition between your primary color and a secondary color. By making a third color, by blending the two primary colors, now all of a sudden you have a more ombre or more transitioned effect. So another thing I'd like to just mention as I'm bringing out the drum carder and sharing this with you, we see a lot of times in our videos a lot of speed. In truth, slow is the key. Go slow, go multiple passes. In my case, I'm using a brush. It's just a standard home cleaning brush. Use a brush like that. I use a brush on mine because mine is a brushless carder. It was made before the company started putting a brush on top of it. I will, if I'm showing the other video, I'll take a break here in a second. I said I have two brushes here that I typically have used. I use this one to begin with because this is what was suggested by the person I bought the drum carder from. But for me, it's a lot easier to hold on to something that's a little wider. So in this video, again, it's sped up. It's for YouTube. It's for Reels. You'll see a lot of people, and it will be high speed because most of the time people don't want to just watch 20 minutes of us carding our fiber. And so we speed it up for the video sake. But when you're drum carding, you want to go slower. If you go fast, you're more likely to create neps. You are more likely to be dissatisfied with the end product. So go slower. Now, I have a drum carder that has teeth set for fine fibers. I would not necessarily want to use a coarse fiber on this one. It has very fine teeth. It is, I'm going to say, I don't know if I pronounce it right. It's a Strauch, S-T-R-A-U-C-H, fiber equipment company. And I bought it years ago from a vendor at the Estes Park Wool Market. It needs to be, it needs to be cleaned. Again, I have to, I every once in a while will give it to my husband, and I will send it out. He'll take it out to the garage and take the air compressor to it. I will also occasionally run a fleece that has a little bit of lanolin left in it in order to keep some lanolin on the tines. It helps keep rust issues down. I try to take good care of it. I try to keep it clean. And I definitely try to clean it out in between each use. And also, certainly if I'm changing colors, I try to get all the fiber. I have this brush. I'll show you the brush. I have this brush that was came with it, and it's really good at gently taking out the little flyaways, little tiny fibers, the fibers that aren't getting picked up. And it is important to do that, to keep it clean. I also have a fingernail brush that I'll use to get in and try to get some of it. I'm very, very careful because I will point down here very gently, hopefully. These are very, very, very sharp. These I can touch. These will cut you, slice you open very quickly. So I definitely try to have gentle tools. I've tried to find some other tools to help clean out, pick out this to keep it clean. That is the tool that I decided to use. It has worked really well. It's creating a lovely bat. That's the dark. That's the light. and it's doing a wonderful job. Again, the idea isn't to in my case, the idea isn't to completely blend into a unified color, but is to blend it so that it is more easily spun and less likely to have clumps of one fiber versus other fiber spinning at any given time. Not that that is a problem if I have two similar fibers. And in these cases, the Merino, the CVM, and the Coriadel are very similar, soft, fluffy fibers. So having a little clump of this or a clump of that isn't a deal breaker. It just, having too much clumping can interrupt the flow of the spin. I have seen, some of the most beautiful, beautiful carded bats this season being spun, where people have done very similar to what I'm doing, combining a dyed fleece with a natural colored fleece and coming up with some beautiful, beautiful, I guess the word would almost be tweedy in a way, beautiful depth of tones and colors and unique, one-of-a-kind fibers. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope this has helped you unwind a little bit with fiber and fabric, and I hope that I was able to edit it in a way that made sense. Until my next video, happy unwinding with fiber and fabric.